Hello, I'm your host, Giselle Gamby, and this is the Intuitive Pool Podcast, where together we'll embrace the plans we did not make, yet unfold businesses and lives that are so much greater in wealth in all ways than any business or life plan could ever achieve. My wish is that you make intuition your most trusted advisor. So buckle up, get present, and let's go. What an unexpected joy it was for me to create this episode. This episode seemed to have a life of its own and ended up taking me to places that I didn't expect to go to. And so I'm creating this little forward to let you know that what has unfolded for me by recording this episode is that we have been given a directive to very much deepen our relationship with following the intuitive pull and to surrendering to it 100%, to surrendering to it 100%. So this is the invitation. I'm going to say that this week's episodes, not just one, but there will be several, are dedicated to supporting you to absolutely and unequivocally knowing where you're being pulled to. And not only that, to unequivocally surrendering into that intuitive pull 100%, not 95% or 99%, but fully letting go of control and leaning into it. So I hope you enjoy this adventure. I'm delightfully surprised at where this episode has taken us. And I'm really excited about what's going to unfold this week and beyond. Enjoy this adventure. Dear listeners, hello. This episode is like all roads are pointing me to Rome. So many separate experiences that are all leading me to speak to this topic, which is a deepening around our understanding as to what it feels like, what the experience is when we follow the intuitive pull. And so it's also really relevant to me right now because on my retreat with my coach that the previous episode was actually inspired from, one of my other big takeouts that arrived with something really simple, but also something really profound. And this purity of intention that I have around, I just want to help more people. I just want to help more people. And thankfully, this podcast allows me to do that. And this podcast was absolutely born from a place of purity of intention. So as I am with the directive that feels like it's been given to me, but also feels like this is what Giselle wants to experience in the world, that I want to help more people, I'm also very mindful as to how that unfolds and whether the quality of my decisions, the quality of my vision, and the quality of my action is born from intuition or born from ego. So the purpose of this episode today is to help you have more awareness around deciphering whether a vision or a decision and action is as a result of following the intuitive pull, or whether it's a result of our ego coming into place. So there are a few things that have even happened this morning as I've been meditating. And there's a quote by Rumi that came into my consciousness. And when I remembered the quote, I thought, oh my goodness, how perfect is that it has arrived on the morning that I want to record this podcast. And so have you heard this quote by Rumi? Allow yourself to be silently drawn by the strange pull of what you really love. It will not lead you astray. And Rumi also says, let the beauty we love be what we do. And I tuned into A Course in Miracles this morning, which is what I've been doing recently. I've been intuitively receiving a lesson number, and this morning's lesson number was lesson 199. I am not a body, I am free. I hear the voice that God has given me, and it is only this that my mind obeys. All these external influences that have arrived this morning have really emphasized the directive to speak to this today about deciphering whether our vision, our decisions and actions are as a result of allowing ourselves to be silently drawn by the strange pull of what we really love. It will not lead us astray, whether it's the consequence of letting the beauty we love be the love what we do, whether it's a consequence of knowing that we are not a body, that we are free, and that we hear the voice that God has given us, and it is only this that our minds obey, or whether it's ego. So let me speak to signs that it may be your ego. In other words, when I talk about your ego, I'm talking about not who you really are. I'm talking about the personality that you've put on to help you feel safe in the world, which ultimately has us not feeling safe in the world. So it's the personality that we've put on. When we follow vision, decisions, or actions from ego, it is born from an agenda. We are doing this as a strategy to get that thing over there that we would love. When we do this thing, then we'll believe that we will have that thing over there that we want, such as freedom, such as joy, such as being in our certainty or our security and safety. So those things don't belong to us inherently, is what we think when we're doing things from ego. And instead we believe that we need to do things in order to have that when we do these things, then we will have that. In essence, when we do things from ego, we are coming from lack. We are coming from a lack of fullness within ourselves. We're coming from a lack of joy within ourselves right now. We are coming from a lack of certainty and security and safety within ourselves, believing that this external thing that we are becoming attached to is going to be our savior, or believing that this person outside of ourselves is going to be our savior, or believing that this external circumstance is what we need in order for us to feel all of those things. And it can be really seductive. I have been there several times where I've noticed my mind being drawn to, let's call them the shiny lights. There are a lot of shiny lights on social media about experts that say that, if you follow this model or their methodology, then, you will have this thing. And, I have had to catch myself. And I've also in the past gone there and fallen into that trap, and also spent a lot of money falling into those traps. So it's really relevant for me, this conversation today, as that directive. I just really want to help more people, that the purity of intention, that I don't forget who I am, and that I don't allow myself to be pulled into those shiny lights. The fact that I can see it is already a wonderful first step. Another point for you to be aware of when you're deciphering whether it's coming from ego or whether it's really coming from what you are silently drawn towards is that you'll want to know how everything turns out. You'll want to believe, and you'll actually want to believe that you know what will be created. And if you do this, then you are focusing on the how. So you are in a mode of rational planning, rational thinking, and the process becomes quite manufactured. I think that's a really good word. It becomes quite manufactured. So if you believe that you know how it's all going to turn out, well, more than likely you are in your ego, and you may well have that plan turn out the way you thought it might. And what you are doing is you're absolutely limiting what could be created. So there are some points for you to have a feel into, especially if you are being silently drawn by the pull of what you really love, to see whether those points that I've spoken to are absent. I know that when I created this podcast, those points were non-existent. Okay, there was a level of practical how that needed to come into place because I didn't know how to produce a podcast, but I was so surrendered into just following that intuitive pull to create the podcast that I had no idea what would happen. And I'm only now 4 months into having started this podcast. I'm only now realizing the power that it has and what a cause for good it is versus having had that at the beginning of its inception. So what about the contrast of that? What are the qualities that are experienced when we are following the intuitive pull? Again, it's important for me to speak these out because you'll be able to recognize whether these are absent or whether these are present. So first of all, when we are following the intuitive pull, there is no agenda. We are not doing this to get that. The word strategy does not exist. Instead, the intention is so pure, and in a way, there's a lack of knowing. Funnily enough, which is the opposite to what our ego needs and wants. There is a lack of knowing as to how things will pan out, what the next steps will be. We only know what that first step is. We only know what that first pull is. And, maybe we can see a vision for sure, but we will only be able to see what our eyes have the consciousness to see right now. And it's as we follow the intuitive pull, as I just said, like 4 months into it, I'm only now realizing the power of this podcast as a cause for good because of recent unfoldings that have happened. You are already full. You are already free. You are already in your joy and in your power and in a sense of purpose. And as you follow the intuitive pull, it absolutely grows as a result. It becomes enlivened. It may even extend. As I said, I'm now being pulled by, I just want to help more people. But the most important thing is that nothing is being born from lack. Nothing is being born from lack. Instead, it's being born from the opposite of lack, from a sense of fullness. Can you feel it? I can feel it even as I'm saying this out loud. And when I'm with the directive, the intuitive pull to, I just want to help more people, I'm feeling that sense of fullness within me. So there's an energetic and very marked difference to creating something from lack. Another marker that helps you decide whether you're following the intuitive pull or whether it's your ego that's come into place is that it actually doesn't make sense. So when we are working at a level of strategy, it does make sense. We do this and then we'll have that and then this will happen over here. And when we're following the intuitive pull, because we can't see the big picture, because we can't see where it will all unfold or how it will unfold and what it will unveil and where it will take us and what will be created, it actually doesn't necessarily make sense in the first place. And the only thing that makes sense or that feels alive is that first initial instruction or directive to follow that intuitive pull. So here we are totally letting go of control. Doesn't mean we're not taking responsibility. We're absolutely taking responsibility to ground the intuitive pull, to take action on what we know, but we are totally letting go of control. And to the ego, that's really uncomfortable because we want to know how and when and what. And but when we do that, we are absolutely limiting it. And I get it, right? I get it in a world of, let me say it this way, in a world where there are so many experts espousing theories and people that we really look up to, that we admire, that I get it, that there's a sense within us that wants to follow those ways. And maybe those ways are absolutely intuitively pulled, intuitively connected. Absolutely. I would not be running my coaching business had it not been for an incredible coach that helped me turn things around in 2011 called Jasmine Platt, and learning from her model the model felt authentic. It felt totally like a structure that is full of joy and intimacy. So it's really important to decipher when you're coming into these worlds where there are so many methodologies and models. It's not about throwing the baby out with the bathwater, but it's absolutely remembering that those models and strategies, if you are depending on them to rescue you or to give you what you want in the future because you believe that you lack that within yourself now, then that is a shiny light. Let yourself be silently drawn by the strange pull of what you really love. Let the beauty we love be what we do. I am not a body, I am free. I hear the voice that God has given me, and it is only this my mind obeys. Love's power that moves through me. And as I surrender to the authority of love, then I absolutely know that I am following the intuitive pull and that my ego has not come into place. Now, I also want to speak to something that I know exists because it's within me right now, and that is tension. Tension when we are gifted with a vision, when we are gifted with a mission. As I said last week, it is extraordinary to be human. It is extraordinary to be human and to feel all the feelings that come when we are gifted with these visions and these missions. It is honoring of our humanity to accept the feelings and the emotions that arise, to accept the confusion, to accept the uncertainty that may arise when you decipher, or when you are trying to decipher, am I following the intuitive pull? Have I been sucked up into the shiny lights? Where am I locating? It's really important to allow yourself to have the space to feel all those feelings, to accept where you might be locating yourself. Maybe you are locating yourself in the shiny lights, and to accept that and to be compassionate to yourself for that. Because if you are not compassionate and unconditionally loving and forgiving of yourself, when your ego might come into place and you're finding yourself located in the shiny lights, well, you'll stay there. We can't shift anything unless we accept it firstly. So that I was not expecting to say, and I'm trusting that because I've said it, it was what was wanting to be heard. And I'm also aware of another breadcrumb that arrived today in my memories on Facebook, which was like, as I said, this conversation today on this episode really feels like all roads are pointing to Rome or leading me to Rome. So I had a memory on Facebook come up from 3 years ago where I interviewed an incredible interior designer called Ioana Lennox, who was a client, a mastermind client a few years ago, and who talks about this, who talks about the moments when she said yes to the shiny lights and to what happened as a result, and to her unequivocal decision to never go down that road again. And I also, on that post, wrote about somebody else, incredible woman called Vanya Contreras, who was in exactly that same place and also an interior designer. And as a result of following the intuitive pull, both of them are living extremely profitable businesses. Now, I'm going to create a bonus episode where I will share Ioana's video on audio, and allow yourself to be catalyzed by that. Allow yourself to be catalyzed into an awareness, a clarity, a crispness of awareness, and a level of honesty with yourself that allows you to totally be on the path of the intuitive pull. If you are already there, to really appreciate that you may already be on that path, and to allow that appreciation to enliven that path even more fully, more brightly. And also, if you're not on that intuitive path, if you have slipped into the path of the ego, that is about strategy and agenda and lack and doingness. And when I do that, then I will finally be full and happy and joyful and free and peaceful. To have compassion and to allow that compassion to drive a decision within yourself that road is done. Just as Awana did, to be unequivocal about never going there again. I can feel huge energy as I say that within me. I know that this is something that wants to be heard today. It's been very interesting actually last week with my clients. The energy, the intuition was so acute that there were conversations that I was having in my one-on-one sessions that the energy was almost overwhelming for both of us because the intuition was just so bright and just so clear and undeniable. And that is my intention for this episode, that your intuition becomes so bright, so clear, and so undeniable that you surrender 100%, that there is no going back, that there is not even 1% resistance, and that you are willing to let the beauty you love be what you do, that you will let the voice of God or of love that has been given to you be the only thing that your mind says yes to. I feel like we've just weeded a garden. We've turned the soil. We've put some incredible nurturing fertilizer in there. We've planted some seeds and the sun is shining and there is enough water to feed this garden, and that I've spoken to your heart, and your heart knows. Your heart has heard. Your heart has also seen where the shiny lights have been said yes to. And your heart knows where you are absolutely being pulled to or on the intuitive pull's path fully. I have shivers going all over my head as I'm speaking this out loud to you. This has been one very animated, so many shivers going on in my head, very animated, very clear, very present, very directive, honest pull to the infinite you that you are, and into letting go of control and saying yes unequivocally. As always, I am here, ready and willing to have a conversation with you. If you are pulled, let that be an unequivocal yes to connecting with me. Details are in the show notes. Ciao, ciao. Well, thank you for coming along this adventure with me. It was a cool episode. I love how I was following the intuitive pull as I was recording it. I often say that presence is a superpower. When we are following the intuitive pull and we're leaning into presence, we don't actually need to have a script. We don't need to have everything planned out. I remember in the old days when I would facilitate my Dare to Be Remarkable workshops with my dear friend David Walker, we used to have everything planned out to the 15 minutes, including prepared flip charts. So it's really fun, living from presence, leading from presence. It is a superpower and has taken us on a journey that was unexpected today. So in closing, I would also like to invite you to sign up to a weekly insights email that I will be joyfully creating, designing. Here's another place where I'm remembering how much I love to write. My first love is writing. And I love creating beautiful things. And so I'm being pulled to not only speak through this podcast, but to also get into people's inboxes and share more personal experiences of my journey, to share client transformations and wins, to share more meditations and even perhaps some processes for you to do. If you would like me to land in your inbox on a weekly basis, please click on the link in the show notes, which will take you to my website, and you'll be added to that list. Thank you so much. See you throughout the week.